It seriously changed my whole thinking about money. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rennie. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. On my channel, I make content around financial literacy, career development, and lifestyle. So if any of those are something that interests you, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. And whether you are new or returning, please hit that like button as it really does help my channel grow. So, as you can tell by the title, today's video is going to be focused on finance. And we're going to be talking about books that I have been reading and a review of a book that I am currently reading. So one of my goals for this year is to read more books. I'm trying to read 52 books, so one book a week this year. Well, I listen to my books. I don't read them often because my focus level, it just doesn't work that way. It's not, my focus is not set up that way. How about you? What do you prefer? Do you like to read books or do you like to listen to the audiobook? Let me know in the comment section. So I was browsing Libby, which is a place where you can get free books here in Canada, and I saw a book called Worry-Free Money, and I was like, let me read this. It looks like the cover looked appealing. I was like, let me try it out, and I really liked it. I read it in 2.5 days. I actually just finished it, and that is why I'm coming to you right after I finish it so I don't forget anything, and so it's fresh in my mind, and I can't say enough good things about it. So let me know if you actually want to see more book reviews. As I said, I'm trying to review, I'm trying to read 52 books. They won't all be personal finance books, but let me know. Let me know in the comment section if this is content you want to see, because obviously if you don't want to see it, there's no point of me making it. So here's how the format of this video is going to go. I'm going to start off with a summary of the book from the author's point of view. Then we'll go into my overview of the book. I'll tell you my lessons that I've learned. I'll tell you some things that I will not be taking or adopting from the book. And then lastly, would I recommend the book or not? So I have the app on my phone, Libby, and I'm going to just read the overview that they had of this book. So this book is called Worry-Free Money by Shannon Lee Simmons. And Shannon Lee Simmons is also she's a woman and she's based in Canada, which is why I really like one of the things that appealed to me, because we don't really see a lot of women in personal finance, and we also don't see a lot of Canadians in personal finance. So she was the best of both worlds. She is hands-on, so she sees people all the time, and you can definitely see that through her book. You can see that she's working hands-on with people. Unlike some authors who are talking from a very high level theoretical point of view, you can tell she's been in the trenches. Worry-Free Money by Shannon Lee Simmons. Stop budgeting, start living. Managing your money can be frustrating and confusing. Life is expensive. Whether you make $30,000 or $130,000 a year, it can feel like you're constantly broke. Can you afford that new car, that vacation, that night out? You think so, but it feels impossible to know. And rigid budgets that force you to spend your money in unrealistic ways don't make anything any clearer. But what if there was a new way to manage your money? One that left you certain that you had all your bases covered, both your monthly bills and your future retirement, and then let you enjoy your money by spending it? Yes, really. Enter Shannon Lee Simmons, a fresh voice in the world of personal finance, one who understands the new and very real pressures to survive modern life and keep up in the age of social media. Shannon doesn't lecture, judge, or patronize. Shannon recognizes that most of her clients of financial planning felt broke, no matter what their income. And feeling broke can be as bad as actually being broke, because it leads to overspending with misery. So she came up with a new plan, Worry-Free Money. Worry-Free Money takes a fresh approach to finances, looking at the root cause of the pressure to spend and showing why traditional budgets don't work. It's a deeply practical book that will help you break the cycle of guilt, understand why you overspend, banish unhappy spending from your life, learn to recognize effort moments, and find hope and fun in getting your money under control. Okay, so that's a summary of the book, and I would say it perfectly summarized exactly what you will learn in this book. It is a deeply practical book. There are so many examples in here. As I said, I listened to the book, so it was an audiobook, but I would actually suggest buying this book because you want to, personally, I wanted to go through and highlight different things while I was reading it because it was that good. There were so many practical tips. I have a whole note that's tips that I learned from this from this book. So I was listening to it and then I would pause and I'd be like, hey, I need to write this down. I need to write this down, and then pause. And then so that's how I was going through this book. So the first thing that I would say in this review is that the beginning of the book really had me like, huh, what is this person talking about? She first said like, budgets don't work. Throw away your budget. Throw away your budget. And I was like, sis, what does that mean? Like, who is throwing away their budget? How does that make any sense? How are we going to know what comes into our account and what's going out? Like, that makes zero sense. That was my first thought when she said that. I was like, okay, I don't know. Like, I just found this book. I don't know if I'm going to keep reading, but I'm glad that I continue to read because it turned out to be very eye-opening. I am someone who has kept a budget for a few years, but I do find it, although like I'm this personal finance girl, I find it very hard to stick to a budget just because I feel like sometimes I create budgets that are very restrictive and like it's kind of impossible to stay within those limits. So the traditional budget, although like it works for me sometimes, other months it's like, ugh, it's not going to work. And then I typically, when I fall off my budget, I'm like, you kind of feel down about yourself. Let me know if you've ever felt that way. Shannon takes a completely different approach and she says, away with the budget. We are done with the budget and we are going to have worry-free money. She basically explained how you can live within your means and not hate your life at the same time. I know a lot of people, when you talk about living within your means, it seems like you're struggling. No, you're not struggling. You're restricting yourself a lot. But she has basically developed a way that you do not have to restrict yourself. And I really love it. Like it seriously changed my whole thinking about money. So the first thing she focused on was understanding the reason why you were actually overspending. I feel like when we do budgets a lot, we will say, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm spending $500 on takeout each month. But like, what is the reason? A lot of us will never dig deep into it. I know I never really dug deep into it. My reason is cooking is not, it's not something I enjoy doing. So I spend money on takeout and it makes me happy. So she also notes that while overspending is not ideal, underspending in those same categories is also not the answer. So she talks about this thing that she calls the inadequacy influence, where the reason that you're overspending is because you don't feel good enough. So you overspend in order to feel better. And I was like, wow, that's so, and she explains it way better than I could, but she basically explains that like a lot of times you're trying to keep up with other people in order to, and when you're not able to keep up with those people, you feel inadequate and then you decide to overspend in order to fill that inadequacy. And I was like, interesting. I don't feel like I'm a person who really compares myself to other people. But then she also clarified that keeping up with the Joneses doesn't mean you're a materialistic person. It doesn't mean that you are someone who needs to buy a car, you need to buy a house, you need to buy new fancy brand name designer clothes. That's not what it means to keep up with the Joneses. The people who are the Joneses in your life are the people who are around you and are just like you and they're in the same sphere as you. And you feel like you relate to them in a way, but for some reason they're able to do better than you. And you're like, why? Like we are in the same tax bracket. But she gave so many practical examples of how like these people you don't know anything about these people or their financial situation. So you can't compare yourself to them. Even though it may look like they are your equals, they really may not be. She had this term about being Beyoncé and how I would never compare myself to Beyoncé. If Beyoncé said she bought a new yacht tomorrow, I wouldn't be like, Beyoncé got this new yacht. Why can't I buy this new yacht? And you know why? Because we know that Beyoncé is definitely in a different tax bracket than most of us. However, we could go to our neighbor and be like, our neighbor just got a new car. Why can't I get a new car? And it's because you think that you know their finances, but the reality is that you do not know their finances. This also encouraged me as a personal finance creator to be even more transparent about my journey because I realized people may be comparing themselves to me, but they don't know all the privileges that I have. They don't know the financial situation that I have. So this has encouraged me to be even more transparent about it so that nobody compares themselves because, again, I see me as Beyoncé. See everyone else as Beyoncé. You do not know their financial situation. You don't know if their parents are funding their life. You don't know if they had help from their family members. You don't know if they just had a relative pass away and give them a huge inheritance. You literally do not know what anyone is experiencing, so you should not compare yourself to their financial situation. It's just not productive, and it fuels the inadequacy influence. So the second thing I'm going to talk about that she mentioned was that, again, she threw out the budget. She said the budget budgets don't work. And you may think that when your budget doesn't work, it is a you problem, but most times it's actually a problem with your budget. Maybe your budget just doesn't align with the type of person you are. Some people love spreadsheets and they can easily fill out a spreadsheet every day, go update it, and keep to a certain spreadsheet. That's good if that's you, but the overwhelming majority of people, it's very hard for them to keep up with it, which is fair enough. It's even hard for me to keep up with it, even though I'm someone who uses a spreadsheet to map out my finances. It feels a little overwhelming at times. Even those apps like Mint or Every Dollar, while they're good, and I think there's a place for them, I think you should definitely start off with them. I think you can tweak them into something that actually works well for you. So the way that she did this was she talked about setting up a hard limit for your money. And what this means is every month you have money that you can spend and money that you can't spend. And that's basically it. You have a bunch of, those are your categories. Instead of creating categories like I have $100 for groceries, I have $100 for clothing, I have $100 for this. Instead of doing that, you figure out what your hard limit is. So your hard limit is defined as your monthly after-tax income after expenses. So when you get paid, say you get $2,000 a month, and then say your rent, your transportation, and all the fixed expenses that you have in your life are $1,000 a month. The spending money that you have left is $1,000. So your hard limit is $1,000. No matter what you're going to spend that $1,000 on, it has to be within that $1,000. Like you can't go over that. And that was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like I feel like we complicate things. And also in those fixed expenses, you include like your saving and your investing. So like all of that money is money you cannot touch. And then there's money that you can touch. And those are the only two categories that you have. And, that makes so much sense to me. And the way that you do, you may think, okay, that makes sense, but how do you actually implement it? And it's by having a detailed plan for your banking. So having accounts for each of these goals that you have. So you separate and isolate your bills. You're going to have one account for savings. You're going to have one account for your bills. And then you're also going to have one account for your spending money. And that's it. And this, again, shows you what you can afford to spend and what you can definitely not spend at all. And again, this, I don't know why, but I know this is a pretty simple concept, but it really blew my mind. I would take it a step further and then automate your savings and investing and your bill payments as well. So if you can automate everything, it's like the money comes into your account, it's sent to these different accounts to pay, and then you have your spending money left, and that's it. You don't have to do anything manual. If you run under the $1,000, you're not taking on debt. That is the only money that you can use. And you have your savings account, which is for short-term savings, and then you also have long-term savings, which is for your retirement, your investing, whatever your goals are. So yeah, that's the approach she takes, and I thought it was really cool. Let me know if you think this is an approach that could work for you. So the last thing I'm going to focus on is the difference between unhappy spending and happy spending. She says that everything that we spend money on can be categorized in these two categories. Things that cause you joy, so they're happy spending, you don't regret them long term, you enjoy them, things like that. And then unhappy spending, things that you maybe begrudgingly do, things that you are spending on just because of the inadequacy influence, things that, maybe short term they'll make you happy, but long term you're not going to be happy about that decision. These are the things. Instead of trying to limit the things that make us happy, which is often what we do in budgeting. So I could say, oh, I spend $300 on food every month. Oh, I need to cut this down to $200. Which is unrealistic for most people because that's something that makes you happy. Instead of trying to cut down the things that make me happy, let me focus on the things that make me unhappy that I'm already spending money on. Like if I am someone who pays every month for Apple Music, but I don't actually listen to music, that may be something that I can cut because why am I spending money on that? I'm going to regret it long term. I'm not going to feel happy about it long term. It's not something that actually brings me joy. The past 3 months of your expenses and seeing outside of the fixed expenses, seeing what makes you happy and what makes you unhappy, and then categorizing it from there, cutting down on the things that make you unhappy and focusing more on the things that make you happy. So now every time I make a purchase, this is how I'm thinking. I'm like, is this something that truly makes me happy? Or am I just purchasing off of impulse? Am I purchasing because I want to be like everyone else? Why am I purchasing this thing? So I think what I really got from this pick was the ability to look deep into my purchases and, analyze them and think about why, like just thinking of the why behind every single purchase that I make. And it's a less restrictive way than saying, nope, I can't spend on food because I've spent too much this month. No, I love eating out. I love spending money on food, but maybe I don't love spending money on other things that don't make me happy. So that's where I should stop spending my money, not the other part. Along with that, she also broke down money into 4 different categories. So she says there are 4 types of money. Money for fixed expenses, so those are your predictable bills. Money for long-term savings, which is for things that increase your net worth long-term. So like your retirement savings, your investment account, like stuff like that. There's money for short-term savings, which is for spikes in investment expenses. So if you have, it's like your emergency fund, essentially. If you have any sudden spike, you don't have to dip into your hard limit in order to pay for those things. And lastly, spending money. So these are your daily expenses. And again, there's no need to limit yourself anymore. You just have to know that you can exist in all 4 of these categories, and that's how you go forward. It was a great book overall. So my overall rating for the book would be go and read this. Highly recommend. Canadian author, woman, amazing. It was truly amazing. Revamped I rethought my whole budget. I was like, damn. I've been trying to restrict myself for so long, but there's another way to do this. It makes me want to like go to her financial planning studio or office and then book an appointment with her because she breaks it down perfectly. I really love the examples that she gave. Like it's a very highly, highly, highly practical book. So I think if you could buy the book and like actually write in it, it would be even better than reading the ebook. So that's my review of this book. Let me know if you like these types of reviews, if I should shorten them, if I should give more detail. Let me know. I want to know what you liked and did not like about this review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.